Hello everybody, welcome back to another Reasonable Price Prediction, the series where we try to figure out where your favorite altcoin could be headed. Now today we are back with Cardano, and I like doing regular video uploads with Cardano sort of bi-weekly because I think it gives you a good indication of how the altcoin space is generally performing. And like you might have guessed, over the last few weeks the altcoin space has been doing well, and Cardano is no exception. And we see that as we're getting closer and closer to the halving, we do seem to be following this trend that we've basically been following ever since September of 2023, and that is just basically steady moves up, which is always nice to see, always. And this is what we're going to mainly be focusing on in this video, on the US dollar chart anyway. We're also going to be examining some key differences, and the first is sort of when we put in this local top here, this first move down. We can see we do the same over at this guy when we get this first move down, and measuring how long it took for Cardano to get a reasonable reset, or at least a pause in the rally that it was following. And during Cardano's last cycle, this was 35 weeks. So if we can see this here because obviously we start kind of moving up here. We're assuming COVID is a black swan, so we're not taking that as our reset or our trend reversal. We're sort of forcing through it, which is again selective, so do with this information as you will. But assuming that we didn't really get a huge setback like we did here, and we just trended up, it lasted for about 35 weeks of strong movement. And in that move, we went from this price here to our high of about a 320% move. And if we scroll along over here now and we take the same place where we are at, or where we started, excuse me, and go up a 320% move, that is putting us at about $1.30 for Cardano. And to be honest with you, I don't think this is too unreasonable as long as the crypto space keeps trending in the way that it is. Again, we've seen huge gains over the last few months alone, and Cardano has made moves of 150% in a month and a half sort of thing, 2 months. It's definitely not impossible for it to make another strong leg up. We might not make it to $1.30, but we could see something like $1, $1.10. But the key thing is that if you want to have it play out the same way, you've only got about 4 weeks left. You basically have a month before your time is up. Now, give or take a week or two, that's fine. But you can see here, Cardano basically steadily trended up the whole way last time, excluding the COVID black swan. And here we've had a bit more of a rickety ride. We had a few months there where we kind of took a step back, which we didn't really get last cycle. Again, excluding COVID. But just something to be aware of. A better sort of scenario might be taking it from this low and seeing how long it took us to move up that 500% that we got in total. And that was over 20 weeks, we'll say, from this low. And we'll be nice, we'll say it's the most recent low, even though I think they're basically the same price, so it doesn't matter. We are now basically out of time, and we've made a move of 200%. So say we have 1 more week, 2 more weeks, and say we move up to a price of, I don't know, 250, and that'll bring us to an 84 cent Cardano. I think that's more reasonable because you're getting half the returns that you did last cycle. Again, we talk about diminishing returns, reduced volatility as market cap grows, more liquidity is provided, making it harder to move the price of an asset. This is normal, and this is kind of basic economics. So potentially over the next few weeks in close term price, we could see a move of this. This could also not play out at all. It's very hard to say. However, the trend kind of does suggest that we could maybe move to the upside and bounce off this resistance. And that does so happen to be at about the 85 cent level, funnily enough, 88 cent. So we could close out next week maybe at the 85 cent level, having touched the resistance at about 88 cents. Only a possibility, of course, doesn't have to play out this way. Another interesting thing that I will look at before we go to the Bitcoin pair is that when Cardano last made a move like this and it had a bit of a pullback, we put in a low that we then revisited. And you could also say the same for this guy here. We put in a a high that then acted as a support. If we zoom in on what's currently happening, you could argue that this is the first low that we've experienced where we have a bit of a resistance and then ultimately break above. We now have broken up above quite significantly, and this could be our second blue line that we're about to put in on this white resistance. And then when we put in this resistance, we might see another move similar to this, or another move similar to this. Spend a bit of time consolidating, a bit of a place to pick up some Cardano before it kind of blows up, and then our bull run. Now there's a lot of talk of the bull run happening a lot sooner rather than later. I still think we'll see most of our gains after the halving at least. I also think that monetary policy isn't the perfect condition for a 2021 type bull run. I'm not saying there still can't be good gains, but I think maybe things have been initiated a bit too early, and because of this we might have a bull run in tight monetary policy instead of one in 2025 when monetary policy could be looser. But anyway, getting sidetracked, basically I think we'll probably make a move up and see something like this where we put in a resistance and then have a consolidation. Most likely how Cardano is going, we'll put in this high before the halving, so we could either spend longer at this sort of consolidation phase where we kind of oscillate within this range that we've set, or it could play out very similarly, spend a similar amount of time, and we just have an earlier bull run than usual. Both are possibilities and both are things that could very well happen. Just very quickly in terms of where I think it could go on the USD in the next few years. Cardano is currently trading at 73 cents. If we take where Cardano crossed the last halving, the price, it was at 5 cents, and it moved to a high of $3, putting in basically a 61x. 61xing your returns from the halving to the high. Now, assuming that, again, we are getting reduced volatility, and from the halving, maybe we cross the halving, just for simplicity's sake, at 85 cents, like we talked about, that sort of a range. We go from 85 cents, and we take a 30x move. You know, we're not going to have enough space. It's going to be, like, huge gains. So taking Cardano at, like, 85 cents, 83 there, or 88, I think it is, but it doesn't matter. And you take a 30% move, half of what we got last time, sorry, a 30x move, half of what we got last time from the halving, you're still looking at a Cardano that's just under $30, basically. So $30 would be your range. Now, to assume that things are just halving as cycles go on, I think would be a bit foolish. I think it's more nuanced than that. It's not that simple in terms of what you see volatility. It also depends on the type of bull market that we're in, and we are not in the conditions that 2021 bull run was. That doesn't mean we can't have a bull run, but I'm just saying it will most likely affect the outcome of the gains of altcoins and cryptocurrencies. So just be aware if you think that we are sort of acting in a diminishing volatility. And again, if you're someone who thinks that it'll play out exactly the same, we'll see like a 65x, you're looking at basically a $60 Cardano, which for me is kind of unreasonable. I don't think it's something that would happen, not this cycle anyway. But again, I'll happily be wrong and rich, to be honest with you. I'll take that any day of the week. Please let me be wrong. But yeah, just basically a quick update more than an actual price prediction. Looking at the BTC pair, again, similar story. We're going to be focusing on leading up to the halving. We saw last cycle that we spent a lot of time at this support, kind of bouncing off it on the Bitcoin pair. Here we haven't visited it as much, and we kind of seem to have moved a leg above. And taking from last cycle, this low that we went to this high, we moved in a 73% range. And this cycle, we've actually been more volatile. We've moved from 800 sats to close to 1600 sats. So basically a 100% range. And we seem to be holding, or at least climbing, with our lows from this like original low that we put in. That is, funnily enough, a very similar time frame in terms of where the halving was. Previously, it was 22 weeks. This low here was 26. And if we take how long it took for us to put in this high that's marked with the red circle, the first cycle it took us 8 weeks, and the current cycle, it has taken us 7 weeks. So more or less spot on with the last cycle in terms of having this low, having this high, and similar percentage moves of range. Just how it's playing out is a bit different. However, you might spot similarities that after we had this move, we obviously had a strong move to the downside. This was, of course, influenced by COVID, but we do seem to have had at least a reasonable move to the downside. And if we actually check how much we moved down last time, we took from this sort of red candle to the low, we moved down 30%. If you take this red candle to the low, it is basically about the same move. So interestingly enough, even without the COVID scare, we've still basically played out the same in terms of percentage on the way down. It's just this time we went up a bit higher, so naturally the fall wasn't as devastating. It also took us longer to get there, and we do seem to have found a support right about here, give or take. Another thing to notice is that even when we put in this high and where we closed the weekly, we do come back to this level, or we did come back to this level at least, multiple times after the halving. So even on BTC pair, when alts start to pick up, and like with a lot of altcoins, Cardano had an explosive move kind of immediately after the halving, but then Bitcoin claimed a lot of it back. and brought it right back to these levels. So maybe it's time to put a bit of your Bitcoin into altcoins if you believe a move like this is going to happen. If you're happy to keep holding Bitcoin for a little while because it does seem to be dominant in the market, you might not be too wrong about that, but just know that around the halving time, Cardano has moved up, and Cardano is not an exception. It seems to be the norm in terms of what happened last cycle anyway. So just be aware that even though we've put in these highs and everything looks very bullish, on the Bitcoin pair, we still could return to these values in sort of half a year's time. We could still be back at these levels. And it just does kind of show how strong Bitcoin is for the majority of the cycle, excluding for when we have sort of alt season and we get these crazy moves up. I think that's kind of about what I want to say. A much shorter video this time, but I don't want to waste your time and fill it with fluff. I basically just want to get the charts in your face and make you think. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment down below if I've missed anything or if there's any sort of upcoming events or roadmaps or plans for Cardano. Again, Cardano is a coin that I own, so I would be a bit more clued in with Cardano, but I'm here to learn, and I'm always happy to learn, especially from you guys, because you know, you're the kind of people that I would like to be around. The crypto bros, if you will, but less bro-ish. Anyway, have yourself a good one, guys. Take care and peace.